Good day, second year. Hope you've been enjoying online learning so far. I'm making this video today just to show you how to sign up to Tinkercad and how to do the first task. There are, in the files section, there's a Tinkercad presentation that helps you sign up, and I thought I'd make this video as well to help you sign up. So in this case, I am using the link for 2.7 to sign up to Tinkercad. That means that when they sign up, they'll join their class 2.7 that the teacher's set up. If you're in a different second year class, your teacher should have posted a link to sign up for Tinkercad to you. So if you just click on this, mine in a private window just now because I'm already logged in. But when you click on that link, you will see this welcome screen. Welcome to 2.7. Your teacher hasn't assigned you any nicknames yet, so what you need to do is click the blue button, email or username, and that'll take you through to sign in. Now you don't have an account yet. It's asking me to log in using my account. What you need to do is click create account just there. Once you're on this screen, you need to change your country. You don't live in the United States, you live in the United Kingdom. And if you stick in your date of birth as well, no, I'd better make that not 2018, I'll think I'm too young. And I'm definitely not born in 1996. After you've changed your details here, you can press next. Pop in your Glow email address. So for most of us, that is GW and then a number, then your last name and then your first name. And stick a password in there as well. What you need to do is tick that I agree to Tinkercad terms of service. And once you click create account, I'm not going to use my Glow because I already have an account. But once you create an account, you will be logged in and you should see a screen that looks like this. Now if I get rid of that section at the top, this is more what your screen will look like. On the left hand side, you have a profile picture. You can update that if you want to by coming up to press on the wee profile picture at the top there and go down to profile, and you can upload a different picture. You can see here my screen name, email name, and how I use Tinkercad. Going back to your dashboard, you'll see down the left hand navigation bar, there is the code blocks here, the thing that's highlighted in grey that says new beside it. What you should have done last time is pressed on code blocks and then created a new code block to follow along with some of the tutorials. Now these three activities here, intro to shapes, moving shapes, rotating shapes, these are the three tutorials that give you a basic understanding of code blocks. I'm not going to do any of that at the moment. Instead, I'm going to create a new design and I'm going to walk you through the process of making the linear leaf. Now, scrolling down here, we've got a lot more shapes than we had in the tutorials. The first thing we need to do is drag in a create new object. And this is down in the modify section, so you'll need to scroll down. Whoops, I don't want that there. Let's drag you to the recycle bin. You need to scroll way down past all the shapes. Again, I don't want you there. Undo is a good one. So we need to create a new object and drag it into the coding area. The default name is set to object 0. We can go ahead and press on object 0 and rename variable, and we're going to call this leaf base. So leaf base. Okay, there we go, and you see it in the data tab on the left. We need to put in, or we can now see that we have leaf base in blue there instead of 0. So a couple of things that we need to do. First of all, it's always good if you're programming to drag in comments to say exactly what it is you're going to do. So this comment here, if we type in what we're doing, we're going to create the base shapes of the leaf with a heart and a cylinder, and press return on your keyboard to get that. Next thing we need to do is pop in a shape. So a way that you can quickly jump up and down this menu is to press on the left hand side, you can see shapes, modify, control. We're going to pop in a shape, and that shape is going to be a heart. And we need to change some of these settings on here. We're going to leave that as it is just now, because we're going to go and rotate our shape. Drag that rotate in, and we're going to rotate around the x-axis by 90 degrees. And we need to pop in a scale, so we can adjust the scale of the object. And we need to pop in a move, and then we need to add the cylinder. So back up to shapes, drag the cylinder in, and we're going to move that to, so back down to modify and move. Last thing we need to do is create group. Create group is at the bottom of the purple menu, and that's that. Now we can get to changing some of these things. So let's start off changing the rotation of the heart. Let's rotate it, change the axis from X to Z, and we're going to change it from 90 degrees to 180 degrees, flipping it right upside down. We're going to change the scale for the y-axis, so scale, click on the y-axis and change that from 1 to 1.5, 1.5, and on the z-axis from 1, we're going to change that scale down to 0.2. The move, we want to move the x-axis, we want to move the heart on the z-axis 1 millimeter. So we'll pop in there 1. Now onto the cylinder, we're going to change the height of the cylinder from 20, and we're going to change that right down to 2. Next thing we need to do is change how the cylinder is moving, so we need to move from 0 to 0.5 for the x-axis. So 0.5 on the x-axis, 0 to 11 on the y-axis, and 0 to 1 on the z-axis. Now that we've done this, if I hide my keyboard and press play, we should hopefully see these things going in, and I've noticed right away that I've made a wee mistake. So in fact, let me go back and review my code to see what I'm missing. Now, looking at my code here, this should in fact be negative 11. Let's hide my keyboard and play that again, see what happens. And the cylinder goes in, negative 11, and it's looking a bit like a leaf shape. It's great. I can change the colour of this leaf to green, press play again, and hopefully once the cylinder's added in, it changes it all to green. There we are. The second part of this object that we're going to create, we need to put in pretty much the same code, but with different items this time. So I'm going to drag these in, and I'm going to create a new object first of all, and then pop in, I don't want that, pop in a comment to tell us what we're doing next. And here we're going to be creating the midrib, which goes down the center of the leaf. This shape uses a box and a roof, and press enter to come down there. So what we need to do next is add in a box underneath here, and I'm going to just go through this. I'm going to go and add everything in first of all, and then I can get to changing the values same way I did before. We need to add in a roof as well under there, and we need to rotate the roof, and we also need to rotate the roof again, and we need to scale the roof, and finally we need to move the roof before we create this as a group. So let's change the name of that to rename that variable, and we'll call this leaf midrib. Okay, and we can see in the data tab we now have leaf base and leaf midrib both shown. And let's get to changing some of these options. So we press on this to make that larger and try and pan across here, perhaps zoom out. We can change the width of this leaf to 1, we can change the length to 38, and we can change the height to 2. On the move, we want to move it 0 on the X, we want it to be 1 on the Y, and also 1 on the Z. Next, for the roof, we need the roof length to be 20, that's fine, all good. And we need to rotate around the X axis by 90 degrees, and the second one down, rotate around the Z axis by 180 degrees, 180. We're going to change the scale of the roof now. On the X axis, that's going to be 0.5, 0.5. On the Y axis, it will be 1, and on the Z axis, it will be 1. We're going to move it on the X axis 0. On the Y axis, we're going to move it 18.48. And on the Z axis, we're going to move it 1.1. Next thing we can do after that is choose a colour for the group. I'm going to zoom in a bit more. Choose a colour for the group, and I'm going to make that a darker green. Now if I press play, we should see the heart go in, stretch the cylinder, change colour, and we should see the midrib go in. Let's see here, something wrong with the roof. I think we have moved it the wrong way. So I've got X, 0.05, that should be, not 0.5, 0.05. Y is 1, Z is 1. We want to move it in the right place. The move for the line should indeed be -1, -1, and 1.1 for that. Let's hide the keyboard and we'll have a wee go again. There's the heart going in, cylinder, it's all green. Okay, something still doesn't look right. Okay, so that should be 0.1 and 0.1 in the Y and Z for the scale on the Y and Z axis. So 0.1, and that one should also be 0.1. And now I think all the other settings look to be correct. Let's press play on that one and see if this looks anything like the tutorial I'm following. Yep, that looks about fine. On to the next slide. Now step 9 is where we add in the veins. I'm going to go ahead and add in all these parts. I would suggest you do the same as well. So same thing as before. Let us create a new object. And inside that object we'll need a comment to describe what we're doing. We need a add copy of object. So up here we have add copy of object, and we need scale, rotate, move. So scale, and then rotate, drag that in, and then move, and then add copy of object again, and followed by scale, rotate, move. Scale, rotate, move, and another rotate, and another move. And we're going to add in 2 math sections down here called create variable. I'm going to drag them in at the bottom. Oops. Drag that in there and there. So first of all, in the comments, but in the object, we need to rename that variable to leaf veins. We have leaf veins, comments. We're going to describe what we're doing here. So this is creating the veins that connect the midrib by using copies of the midrib object. Now add copy of object. If we press on that, if we zoom in a touch probably, and we press on this wee box here, we can drag in leaf midrib. From there we can drag it in and it should snap in, and we also need to drag the leaf midrib into the second add copy of object, like that. Now to change some of the settings in here, 0.4, 0.4, 0.8, so we're going to scale 0.4, we're going to make that one 0.4, and we're going to make this one 0.8. We're going to rotate it around the z-axis, and we're going to do that by negative 60 degrees. Negative 60. And then we need to move the object XYZ, that'll be 7, negative 15, and 0.2. 7, negative 15, and finally 0.2. Next we need to add in a copy of the leaf midrib. We've got that. Scale is going to be 0.4, 0.4, 0.8 again. That'll be 0.4. Nope, wrong box. 0.4, 0.4, that's 0.8. We're going to rotate this around the z-axis by negative 60 degrees. So that's z-axis by negative 60. And then we need to move it to 7, negative 15, 0. So move 7, negative 15, and 0. Finally, we need to rotate this one around the y-axis, so change that from x to y, and this gets rotated by 180 degrees, 180, and finally move it to negative 13.8, negative 13.8 on the x-axis, 0 on the y, and 0.2 on the z-axis. We're going to, the create variable node is that's going to be distance. Can we change this? Change this one to distance. Okay, and change this variable to scale. Okay. Oops. Why has that happened? So to get around that wee problem I had, I deleted out the bottom one, and then I dragged in another create variable, changed that from item to rename variable, and now we can call this one scale, and drag that on to attach onto the bottom, and change the number to 0.9. 0.9. Now, if we press play here, we should see a nice animation for our leaf being created. I'm just going to go to 2D view. That's exactly what we're looking for right now. Looking for this to be added in. And now we need to start thinking about creating a linear pattern. So, another bit of code block down here. We need to create a new object and change this from object 0, rename that to vein pattern. Okay, and underneath here we'll add in a wee comment describing what we're going to do. And what are we going to do? We're going to create the vertical vein pattern by using copy of the leaf veins object. Now we need to come into the control here, and we're going to drag a repeat to underneath that comment, and inside that repeat we're going to pop an add copy of object. So inside there, add copy of object, and we'll need to move that object, and we'll need to change the item by 1. And so back to the math, and we will change underneath there. Why is that not clicking in? There you go. And then we need to scale, so back to modify and select scale in there, and then we need another math to change item by 1 again. Just drag that, slot it in there. Now to change some values, we want this to repeat 4 times. 4 times. The copy of object is going to be leaf veins, so let's drag leaf veins right in there. It needs to move distance, so we can drag distance into the Y, and we're going to change distance by 6. And now we need to add the scale in, so where it says the scale, we're going to drag off from the, in fact I've dragged one in, so I'll need to undo that. And we need to drag the scale into the X coordinate for this, and change the scale by negative 1.6. So negative 1.6. Now if we press play, we'll see a nice animation of what our code is doing and how that's generating a model. Scaling it down by 1.6, scaling it down, scaling it down. Okay, they all look to be the same size, so I've obviously encountered another problem here. And looking back over the instructions, it's not negative 1.6, it is negative 0.16. I'll just double check all my other instructions just now. Oh, that's why we haven't changed the scale on there to negative 1.6. So if I press play for that again and speed through it, we'll see, yep, these are adding up correctly. I'm going to go a wee step further now, and we're going to group the whole leaf into another object. So scrolling down here, back to modify, create new object, and we need to drag in a couple of add copy of objects in here. Add copy of object, add copy of object, add copy of object, add copy of object, and now create group. And then we'll need to delete objects. Delete object, delete object, delete object, and delete object. Now the groups that we want in here, we want the leaf base. I want that to be in the first box right there. The next one, leaf midrib. Drag that up and pop it in there. And then leaf veins, drag and pop it in the third one. And vein pattern, drag it into the fourth. And that's going to create a group. And now we can delete out these objects just in the same order. Delete out leaf base, delete leaf midrib, delete leaf veins, and delete vein pattern. And let's press play there and see what happens. It's going really quick. I need to create this, rename this object to leaf complete. And the final bit of extension task we can do is we can create a new object, put a maths node in, create variable, and we'll call this distance 1. Nope, not distance, we need to rename it to distance 1. Now, because I renamed that to distance, I'm going to have to delete this out again. So I'm going to have to rename that distance and then delete it, distance. And add in a new one. So create variable, change it from item. I'm going to rename that variable distance 1. And we should see over on the left hand side we've got distance and distance 1. And distance 1 we're going to pop in there 29. And we need a repeat in here, so we need some control to repeat this 6 times. 6 times. What do we need to do? We need to add copy of object. And we need to drag in the entire leaf object. Entire leaf. Oh no, it's not called that, it's called leaf complete. We need to move distance 1, 0, 0. So in modify, we can drag move over and change the x coordinate to distance 1. And then we can drag in a change, item 1, and we change this to distance 1. And we're going to change that by 29. 29. So if I press play now, we have the leaf going in, and we also have, was repeated 6 times, was creating the leaf. So that should have given us a linear leaf pattern. However, it's only created it once, because we've changed the distance and not distance 1. So if I press this time, we should see the leaf pattern repeating 6 times. There we go. The final design should look like that. And that is the complete tutorial. Thank you for bearing with it. Thank you for being patient and listening to me trying to solve problems live